Hello, welcome. I'm Tommy the Keyblade Master, and you're watching one of my Mario Mondays review. Today I'm going to go take a look at a classic NES game called Dr. Mario. It's a puzzle game. Now, I got this one for the Wii U's Virtual Console because they had a buy the NES version on the Virtual Console and get $5 off Dr. Luigi. Roughly translated, it was buy Dr. Luigi and get Dr. Mario free. But I decided to pick it up just for nostalgia's sake. I don't think I would have bought this game for $5 without that free offer, and I'll get into that towards the end of this review. Right now I'm just going to look at the basics and review it and see whether or not Dr. Mario is a good game. Alright, there isn't much of an actual in-game story in this one. You just beat a stage like this, some music plays, you press start, and you're off to another stage. Mario on top there doesn't even spin around or do a dance like he does in some of the more modern versions. Of course, there have been a lot of jokes going on about Mario being a doctor in this one. Brental Floss's Dr. Mario with Lyrics is an excellent parody of this. Why would Nintendo give Mario the role of a doctor? You have to understand what Mario is. Mario was originally supposed to be Popeye. And if you don't know who Popeye is, well, what do you mean you don't know who Popeye is, you young punk? Just as he hasn't had a new cartoon over here since Ronald Reagan, and doesn't mean he's outdated. Anyways, he was a sailor who ate spinach and got strong enough to beat the crap out of any overly muscular ninja turtle made by Michael Bay. Thank you, Mr. Old Fart. But yeah, Old Fart's kind of right. I can understand why kids wouldn't understand who Popeye is. I don't think I've even seen reruns of him for over a decade. But anyways, he's an American cartoon. He's not anime. But he was very popular in Japan in the 80s, and Miyamoto wanted him for Donkey Kong. They couldn't get the license for him, so Miyamoto made Mario. They did eventually get Popeye and make a Popeye game for the arcade, and even had a pretty solid NES port. However, due to licensing reasons, I don't think we'll ever see Popeye on the Virtual Console. Kind of a shame. It's a pretty good game. But anyways, because of Nintendo created Mario, they kind of decided in the 80s through the early 90s to cast him as the everyman role if it had something to do with a worker position. I mean, if they wanted fantasy, they'd use Link. If they wanted sci-fi, they had Samus. But if it was like down-to-earth position, they used Mario. That's why you see him as a plumber, a construction worker, etc. through the 80s. He didn't become plumber superhero until the early 90s. And then, the whole Mushroom Kingdom mythos got established for him. So at the time, Mario was kind of perfect for the Dr. Mario team to grab and use in this game. Hence why he's the doctor, and it doesn't really concern me that much. What did scare me as a kid is that the person responsible for the super viruses Dr. Mario has to battle is Nurse Toadstool. Who's Nurse Toadstool? Well, you now know her as this dumb blonde. Yeah, and if having someone like Peach in charge of dangerous contagions isn't scary enough, listen to this line and you'll really be scared stiff.
I won't let you take Mama Peach away!
Mama? Mama Peach? I'm your mama?
So, the Mushroom Kingdom has in charge of their harmful contagion unit a woman who doesn't even know the birds and the bees. Trust me, girl, I'm pretty sure you'd be aware if you pushed out something as ugly as Bowser Jr. out, you would remember it. Be scared, people. Be very, very scared. The graphics in this game are bare bones. Simple. All you really have is about 3 frames for Dr. Mario throwing the pills and then little sprites that are animated and some dancing viruses. It doesn't even look that much different on the NES than it does in the high definition Dr. Luigi or the Wii Dr. Mario RX.
Of course, the upgrade doesn't matter in this one. The original game had a Game Boy port, and it was very successful with just 3 colors. Kind of remind me of my first video game system. It had an option for black and white. Think about that, kiddies, next time you're worried about a game being registered only in 720p instead of 1080p.
Old Fart is right. There was a very successful Game Boy port of this, which only had 3 shades of black and white. All you need to do is have 3 colors, really, to enjoy this game. So, having it in HD version doesn't really matter. However, there is something about the newer versions you have to take into account for other than the prettier pictures, and that is they have more options. And I'll get into that later on to why I don't recommend either the NES version or the Game Boy version on the Nintendo Virtual Console, and why I have to question Nintendo releasing them in the first place. I am Dr. Mario and I am saving life. You've never heard Brental Floss's With Lyrics song parody of Dr. Mario? Add an annotation here and go watch it. It's funny as heck. But as far as the actual music in the game, he uses that in his lyrics. And what can I say? The default song Fever is just catchy as heck. Listening to a few minutes of it will get that song stuck in your head for the rest of the day. It's catchy, it's cool, and you can definitely see why the viruses on the side of the screen are dancing to it. The other song listed in this game is called Chill. It's not quite as good as Fever, but it's still kind of catchy. The gameplay in Dr. Mario is pretty simple. You drop color pills into a bottle and try to match the colors up to a virus. You need 4 of the same colors to clear a line, and you hope that a virus is in the line. The problem is each pill is usually 2 different colors, and you have to watch where the spare colors drop after you clear a line. You can, of course, combo your pills by, like what I did here, by making one disappear and the other fall onto another color block and cause more viruses to disappear that way. Doing that in the newer version usually triggers a tone. The tone only happens in the original NES version when you play on multiplayer, because doing those combos is the key to attacking your opponent. Now, death happens when you fill the bottle completely full. Mario will, of course, get the shrug, and you'll hear the viruses laugh at you. Of course, my favorite death scene in a Dr. Mario game probably has to go with the Online RX for the Wii. For some reason, I just love his facial expression as he shrugs. He's like, I probably just caught a contagious virus that'll kill me and turn the Mushroom Kingdom into something that looks like Raccoon City, but you know something, that's Jill Valentine's and Capcom's problem. Oh well, it's time to talk about the multiplayer aspect of Dr. Mario, and this is kind of where the game gets to be the most fun, is playing it on 2-player mode. The idea in 2-player modes is to do either one of 2 things. Either clear out your viruses before your opponent, number 1, or number 2, trip up your opponent so much that he fills his jar up completely full and dies. Either way you win. First to win 3 times wins the whole match. Of course, one of the things you can also do is screw up your opponent by doing those combos I was talking about as seen here. When done, you'll hear the tone and some junk blocks will fall. Now, my problem with Dr. Mario is these junk blocks can be either overly effective or under effective, depending on where they land. If they land in the right spot, it can take your opponent forever to clear them out and get back on track. And time is important in 2-player. However, there's been times where I've seen junk blocks actually land in places that help my opponent clear out a whole bunch of viruses in their own blocks and counterattack me with no effort on their part. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Not the best multiplayer Nintendo puzzle game from this era. I personally prefer Yoshi's Cookies multiplayer mode. Single player mode wasn't that great, but Yoshi Cookie on multiplayer could be a blast. And Mario was a little bit more than Dr. Mario, but Dr. Mario is still a blast to play. I should also mention that this one, of course, doesn't have any online play. Dr. Mario for the Wii also doesn't have any online play anymore. If you want to get your Dr. Mario fix online, there's only one doctor that will treat that, and that is Dr. Luigi. But before I go into what versions of Dr. Mario I recommend, there's something about Dr. Mario's multiplayer ending that kind of bothers me. Is it just me, or is that gesture he makes when you win just a little obscene? Come on, Mario, you're a doctor. Don't you know that type of stuff leads to blindness? Well, there's not much I can say about Dr. Mario other than it's a fun, addictive, very challenging puzzle game from the early 90s. It's been ported to every Nintendo console, I think, except for the Virtual Boy. The GameCube's Dr. Mario version was released only in Japan, but there was like 2 or 3 different versions for the Game Boy Advance, so if you have a Game Boy player, you got your GameCube Nintendo fix covered too. So yeah, there's not much of a problem finding one, and it can be very tough. The only way you can see the real ending in the NES version is to beat the last level 20, which, you know, is just pretty much crammed full of viruses on high. I have never been able to do it. I've been able to beat it on low difficulty, but not on high. But yeah, but as I was saying earlier and a few other times, I can't recommend this version. I have to go with Dr. Luigi. In Dr. Luigi, you not only get the online player and classic, you'll also get a new mode called Flash, where your goal is to wipe out all the flashing viruses before your opponent does. Really helps mix up the game. You also get some Dr. Luigi specific modes, which turns the pills that you use into L shapes. That dramatically changes the way the game is played, and like I said, it also has online and better graphics. All for $10 more. I really can't, like I said, recommend the $5 Virtual Console when Dr. Luigi just contains so much more stuff. Now, if you own a 3DS, I can't recommend the Game Boy port on that Virtual Console either, because DSiWare had something called Dr. Mario Express. Now, Dr. Mario Express is a single-player Dr. Mario experience, which kind of sucks, but hey, the 3DS can't emulate the link cable either, so that Dr. Mario's Game Boy game single-player too. So, and you get color with the DSi version, plus a fake multiplayer with the AI. Still more modes than what you'll get with the Game Boy. So, I don't know why Nintendo decided to release these 2 original versions of Dr. Mario when they also have on their eShops versions with just so much more. So, it kind of confuses me that they did that. Now, if Nintendo released one version that might be just a little superior than Dr. Luigi if you're not big into online, which is Dr. Mario 64, I might have trouble recommending Dr. Luigi over Dr. Mario 64 for a $5 difference in that case. Because Dr. Mario 64 contained a 4-player mode. It also had a rather weak story mode, but it also had the Flash mode as well. So Dr. Mario kind of had more modes than Dr. Luigi, but I don't think we'll ever see that on the Virtual Console. Nintendo no longer supports the Wii Shop channel, and the Wii U for some reason does not have the N64 on the Virtual Console. Don't ask me why. Nintendo's always been kind of hard to understand with its decisions. The only people I could see ever liking the NES version more is, well, people like him.
What do you mean you recommend Dr. Luigi over the original classic? It's got Luigi on the top of it, not Mario. Just like having Ninja Turtles wear different costumes so you can tell their personalities rather than a bangs on your face. Nintendo's like Michael Bay. They're out to destroy all the people's childhood who grew up in the 80s.
Yeah, and if you are acting like that, I suggest taking a long, hard look in the mirror, because acting that way makes you look old and foolish, even if you're still pretty young. Anyways, just because of what Dr. Mario for the NES Virtual Console is, I'm not going to rate it. I'm just going to say, don't buy it. Dr. Luigi is out there if you're interested in this type of puzzle game. I'll rate Dr. Luigi some other time when I decide to sit down and do a full review on him. It's a pretty fun puzzle game. I kind of wish Nintendo would get around and remake a Wario Woods puzzle game. I love that game on the NES. It holds the dubious honor of being the last made NES game and the only NES game with an ESRB rating. I should also mention one last quick trivia before I'm done, in that this game features the same creator as my last Mario Monday, Gunpei Yokoi. Last Mario Monday I reviewed Super Metroid for something different, and they both share the same creator. Gumpei Yokoi also created the Game Boy. He also created the Virtual Boy, but hey, nobody's perfect.